Hello everybody, it's me. I'm back for hopefully the final part of this, the final video in this series. I'm back here in my classroom, and what I want to do right now is open up where we've been working on all the written sections. In the last video we completed the recording, so that's a done deal. We've done all the programming. We've done all the written sections except the conclusion. So as those documents open up, and I'm going to just sort of move them over so we can start to see them. So here's our section C, our code complexity, right? And it has those screen captures of chunks of code from our code itself. So it's a low word count on that, only 185 words to explain why we should get that high mark in that section. And just to refresh your memory, that section C, right, the code section, is where we want to show off. This is not a required written section, at least it's not formally written to the IB that it should be, to basically explain why our code has a high level of complexity and uses the tools or the programming concepts appropriately, and that they're adequate or they meet the needs of the solution itself. So there we go. Was why we wrote that section C there. Our section A, our original problem, right, is all written up and it's done. Our section B, our record of tasks, is all done, including not only the journal of what we've done each day, but also our design overview, how we designed the solution, including some of the data structures through a UML diagram, and our testing plan, which is now all passed. What's left to do is our section D. So let me address what section D is designed to do. Just before we do, this is actually incorrectly labeled. It's not section D, it's section E. Section D is the video. Section D is the video where we did record our voice. We wanted it to function. And again, what we're looking for here is that it functions well and straightforward, not that it functions partially, and that it cannot be modified easily, right? So that was the goal, that it functions well and that modifications could be pretty straightforward if needed. That was the goal, was to have well and straightforward there in the marker's mind, and I think we accomplished that in the last video. Okay, so what we're going to work on today is actually section E, the evaluation. So I called this D, but I was incorrect on that. So I'm just going to save this. And I'm going to rename this section E. And reopen it. That's really what it is. It's our section E. Okay, so let's look at what we need to write up in this. So here's my advice for this. It is definitely a written section. It's not affected by the code or the video. Those are all done. It's essentially a conclusion stating how this whole process went, how our solution turned out, and there's going to be a couple different headings for this. We're going to do an evaluation, right? We're going to go back and look at section A and the success criteria that we laid out, and did we meet them? Which levels did we meet in our range? We should get some feedback from our client, right? We want to put in their feedback, and that's going to be a section. We're going to have a recommendation section. How could we improve this, right? And that those recommendations are realistic, not pie in the sky, but they're realistic improvements that would make our solution even better for our client. Now, what will this translate to? Well, again, I'm going to just going to erase these. Okay, so what I want at the end of this is that the product has been fully evaluated, not partially evaluated. So this evaluation should be very full, right? A full evaluation, which means it's going to cover all the things we have listed here. Okay, against that success criteria. So the success criteria should be mentioned. It should include that feedback from the client advisor, right? So we want to make sure there's that feedback section in there. Okay, and the recommendations are not largely realistic, they're realistic. So fully with feedback and realistic recommendations. Okay, the recommendations should be realistic. So now we know what we have to do, okay? So let's open that. I'm gonna close A, and I'm gonna close B, and I'm gonna close C. Now you might think, well, why did you close A? Well, actually I have, what I did, and you might remember this in the last video, is I basically copied over the stuff from A, the success criteria, right? So I'm gonna create a conclusion heading that I'll be writing about. And I'm going to create an evaluation section, which is what this really is. This is the evaluation section. It's going to be right here. Right, so evaluate, and that we'll use that as a kind of a basis. And then, whoops. Then I'm going to have my, not description and rationale, I'm going to have my feedback, or my client feedback section. So I'm going to have a section for the client to give some feedback. And then finally, my recommendations. Oops. So each of these will be sections I can write about, and then I can get my word count and add it to my total and see how I'm doing. And I'm going to not necessarily work on it in this particular order, but let's start with the conclusion, and once again, I'm going to let it do the typing for me. My solution to this problem was very effective. I was able to meet all of my goals, and the program functions perfectly. As seen in my section D video, the program functions fully. I will also include feedback from my client on their response to the solution and list my recommendations below, period. Okay. Let me just review. My solution was very effective. I was able to meet all my goals, and the program functions perfectly. Seen in my section D video. The program functions fully. I think I'm repeating myself. So I'm going to say fully right here, as seen in my section D video. And I'm going to put a period there. We'll also include feedback from my client on their response to the solution and list my recommendations below. Okay, so that's just my little conclusion section. And what I hope again is it states how that process went. I didn't really state that, so I'm just going to put a little more into that. This process was very effective as a learning experience for myself in finalizing my computer science skills. Okay, putting a period on that. What's wrong with finalizing? Computer science should be capitalized. That's a personal gripe of mine. Okay, all my goals. Okay, so there's my little start to that. Now let's write about the evaluation. List the success criteria. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do right here. I was able to reach my best case requirements for success as outlined in the copied and pasted over list of success criteria from my section A below. Okay, I'll put a colon there, section A, capitalize, evaluation. I was able to reach my best case, not requirements, no requirements. It's outlined in the copied and pasted over list of success criteria for my section A below. And I'm going to put these in a reverse order, right? So instead of starting with the best case, I'm going to start with the minimum case requirements. And I'm just going to say at minimum, I'm just going to say met. This was met. Done, okay? And maybe I won't bold this. I'll italicize this and bold this. Okay, and so that was done. And I'm going to change the text, the case of this. So allows the user. So it's in more of a present tense. Allows the user to enter text for an electronic note. Notes, not will have in text entry field of the program. Done. Allows the user to enter more than one note. I don't need to speculate on this. That's done. This I don't need to worry about because we went beyond that. Okay, so now I'll bring up my typical case requirements, and I'm going to bring those up, join them onto this one, make this italics, and I'm going to make sure this is met. So this guy is met. Okay, don't need to say this, that's kind of self-evident. It saves the notes to a permanent file, and they can be retrieved the next time the program runs. That's done. Notes, not will have, but have a date entry field and a title entry field. Done. The user interface is, well, again, I'm going to move that further down. So I'm going to take this part and just kind of move it down to my best case area for now, and we'll get there. Okay, so now let's deal with best case, which also has been met. Oops. Okay, so we're going to be meeting our goals here. We'll meet that. Okay, yeah, that I know. The user can sort the notes by date or title. That's done. The user can search the notes or even text. Done. The user interface, not will be, is an advanced. The advanced user interface is a form frame is, well, it's actually multiple form frames with controls and a solid user experience. So I was just going to combine these write-ups together. And that's done. That's a done deal. So there, I've addressed what it said. I've addressed the range of success criterion in this section. Okay, so my evaluation of those best case requirements have been met, right? My best case success criteria have been met. Okay, time for some client feedback and then some recommendations, and then we's done. Okay, and then we'll get it ready for handing in. All right, so let me think for a second. What am I going to say about client feedback? How they like the solution. Okay, and if it meets their needs. My client has reported that the solution has met all their needs and they are very happy with both the user interface and their user experience, period. The client had a few suggestions for improvement that I will cover in my recommendations section, but overall was part of the process and felt heard, and the solution completely meets their needs, period. Okay, so let's see, let me review that. Oops. Reported the solution has met all their needs and they are very happy with both the user interface and the user experience. The client had a few suggestions for that I will cover in my recommendation section below, but overall felt a part of the process and felt heard, and the solution completely meets their needs. Okay. There, got some client feedback in there. Recommendations. Okay. And again, what we want with this is realistic improvements, not unrealistic, how it could be better. for the client. This program could be improved by adding an edit feature, which allows the user to edit existing notes without having to delete them and rebuild the notes. Period. This program could also be improved by adding the ability to attach files or graphics to each note as the client recommended. This just happens to not be part of the available timeline for my solution. Period. Great, so there's a couple improvements I think we could add in there. Oops, forget to turn that off. There we go. Can also, sure. Okay, so let's see what the word count was on this section. 381 words. Okay, 381 words. Let's do the full total now. Let's calculate this all together. All right, so we are looking at 475 plus 654 plus 185 plus 381. We're looking at 1695 words. That's under word count, and it is good. So that's our total word count for our section E, the conclusion. And I'm just going to move that down a little bit so that there's our totals for the whole shebang. And we'll save that, and that's done. Okay, we now have everything we need. This Appendix A is now going to be deleted because you might remember that was back in the early stages where we ended up not using it in that way. The appendix we do have is necessary for the code that we're going to be included. So we have everything kind of here. All our written sections, A, B, C, D, E, our recording, our appendix, and the electronic notes itself. Okay? So these are our original files, right here. But now we need the actual format that I want to hand it in as. So for this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to that website. And actually, let me start again for those who might be picking these videos up late. I'm just going to Google search Mr. Wachs. Once I get to my website, the Mr. Wachs website, I'm going to go here under courses to Computer Science IB. That's the page I'm on. And if I scroll down this page, I have all this stuff about the internal assessment, with all these things here, including all these videos. They're all here, the entire process from start to finish, how I developed this internal assessment. This is today's video. It's going to be linked in once I'm finished recording it. But I'm actually going to scroll up right here. It says, this is a link to the folder template to edit the HTML document for the proper format. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that. So the IB wants it in this format. So I'm going to take these things, this folder, these 3 folders, and this cover page, and I'm going to download them. So it's just going to zip them together, and I'm going to put them together as they get zipped and downloaded. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to make a folder just called Hand In. And I'm going to be placing that in there once it's done. Okay, so here it is, it's downloaded. I'm going to open it. So you can see here, documentation, other, okay. And if you were to look in here, a lot of these folders are empty, like there's nothing in the product folder. The other folder has actually got some stuff in there that isn't really necessary, but we'll back up on that. And documentation. Okay, I'll just leave that one open for a second. So I'm going to take these, put them in the Hand In. So they're in there. I'm going to go up a level, grab electronic notes, copy it, put a copy of it, whoops, in Hand In. That way I got 2 of them. I got one and then this one in Hand In, and rename it product. Because that's what it is. This is the product, right? I didn't call it that obviously when I made it. It's my product, okay? Under documentation, here you see the names that I would recommend you name for your written sections, A, B, C, D, and appendix. And I do recommend that they be made into PDFs. If this is, if you're one of my students, I will do this for you, so you don't have to worry too much about it. But I'm just going to show you the process. I'm going to go up to these 4 things, and I'm going to right-click and convert them into PDFs. Okay, so I want to get to this folder. Oops. Just going to cancel that for a second. This is the folder I want to get to, so. Okay, so my section C. Now right now they're just going to have the same names, okay, but I'm going to change that in a second. Now, actually, while that's happening, I'm just going to open this window with another window right beside it, the same, essentially the same window. Hand in. Okay, so there we go. So I'm building these PDFs, section C, you can see there, and the other one. These are just, by the way, building off screen here a little bit, but it's basically the exact same thing, just in PDF format as opposed to Word format. We're going to actually hand in both to the IB. Why not? We'll give them everything more than they need here. And save that. Appendix is already a PDF. We did that in the last video, so that should be easy enough. Just letting this finish up here. So there's our section C. Here's our section A, our section E. One we just finished, our section A. And now our section B. B was the longest one. That was our record of tasks. So there's our section A, section C, section E. Okay. Now, another thing I could have recommended we didn't do in this video was to go and look at some sample section E's. That would definitely have been something you could have done, is because I did link to sample project folders. Let's just take a second to grab an example IA from one of my students' IAs here and go into their documentation, take a look at their section E, the evaluation, and how they did theirs, right? Very similar feedback from client. They did a lot more feedback. That might have been something I should have broken down a bit more, but so this gives you, again, more ideas, the way you could write up your sections. Okay, so there's my record of tasks, my section A, section B, section C, section E. Okay, so now over here in the handed section, under documentation, I'm going to start by copying over the appendix. And I'm going to copy it over. This is going to replace the one that's already there, replacing appendix. Now, rather than just copy section A like this, I'm going to use the exact same name. So I'm going to rename this like that. And I'm going to do that with B. Oops, and I can't do that while they're all open, so let me close them all. And whoops, let's try that again. Section B. There we go, B. Section C. And D. This is so confusing. A student even asked me this morning, is section D or E? And I get it. It is a bit confusing. But I'm just going to take these, copy them over. And the reason is, replace the ones that are there. That way I don't have to do a lot of editing on my HTML document, which I'm about to do. I'm going to also do this with the recording. Now, I'm not going to make a copy of the recording because it's a video file, so it's pretty big. I'm going to actually just move the recording actually over there. Okay. Now I can delete these PDFs because I don't need those anymore. Okay. I really don't need the appendix either. But there they are in their original formats. And I'm also going to rename the recording to just video. Okay. And you'll kind of see why in a second. All right. So now back to hand-in. This has all been placed in that documentation folder. Okay. Under product, there's the actual product, the actual thing. I still have a copy back here. Okay. Under other, These are actually the marking sheets that I'll be including in there, so you can leave those in there, that's fine. This is a document from the IB, that's fine. But I'm actually going to place the Word documents under other as well. I'm going to put a copy of them in there. Keep the originals back here. Here's a copy of the Word documents there. The IB Marker has lots of stuff they can look through. The original Word documents, they've got everything they need here. So now what I'm going to do is open this cover page, right? So I'm going to take a look at this cover page to see what I have to edit here by the IB. So here it is. Obviously, I'm going to have to put my name into it, and I'm going to have to put my school and all that stuff. But notice that a lot of this stuff is done for me. When I click See Product Folder, it's automatically linked to that folder, so I don't have to change anything about it. If I click Planning, it automatically links to my Section A. Record of Tasks, right? Design happens to be the same document for me. Development, that's going to be my Section C. Look at that. The video, okay? So for that one, I might connect to a YouTube copy of it, but we'll get to that in a minute. Evaluation. So all of that's there, right? Even an appendix with the code. So I don't have to change any of those links. I've got everything I need kind of there. All right, but I do have to edit some of this document. Here's how you would do that. To do that, you want to edit an HTML document. There are multiple ways to do that. I'm going to use this thing, Notepad++, another free program you can get. It's on the computers here. And this allows me to actually edit this cover page. So for example, and I actually have included instructions in it, where it says candidate name, you would put in your actual name. You would then save it, and then maybe refresh this website, and you would see right there. Oh, that was weird. I did it backwards, so let me undo back. Your name here. Can't even read my own instructions. Okay. Your number here. I don't know my candidate number because I don't have one, so I'm just going to put that in there. School number is 201, so that is going to go in there. My title. So this is my electronic notes program. So that's the title of my solution. Okay. So I knew that was where I had to put those in. The candidate session number, May of 2022, not 2020. Okay, what else do I need to put in? The links are all pretty much set, right? So I don't have to change a lot of these links, right? Now this one, the video of the product, for that, what I think I'll do is I'll actually link to where it actually is. The video is in documentation, right? So just like here, when I link to this PDF document, for my video, if I don't want to do it off YouTube, I can link to the video itself, which is not this, but my video is called video.mp4. There, okay? And then the rest of this, other than the word count, and I know what the word count is because I have it in my evaluation, that my word count is going to be 1695. So I'm going to pop that in here. The word count is 1695. I'm going to save that. And we're going to go back and refresh this. There we go. So it's got my name, the solution name, school, candidate number, all of that's in there. Okay. If I want to, I can see the folder. Go back. I can read the planning document, record of tasks, all of this, all of it. And now my video
Welcome to my interpretation
is also linked in, right? The video is actually also linked in as well. So all of that is done, okay? So now I look at that hand-in folder, and everything I need is there. So if a marker was to get this, they could open that cover page, they could use it to read all my documentation, they could use it to watch my video. They also have a few other things they could look at, like the actual Word documents and other things, including the entire product itself. They can look at all of that. And this is now a done deal. So everything for that example IA is now in this hand-in folder. Now I've kept another copy of the project here. I've kept another copy of the written work here, and even the code. So I have other copies of it. It's never a big deal with electronic documents to have backups. It's, I think, always a recommendation to always have backups. So there we go. That's it. The internal assessment, theoretically, I could now hand that folder to my teacher, who then would have very little trouble putting together marks. And let me actually show you a little bit of how I mark this. That's one of those documents in the other folder, is actually this teacher marks and rationale. Because as the teacher, I like to not only mark it, so I would go in and go, okay, this is me marking for this student, okay, out of 34 possible marks. Did they have a scenario and a client? Was it high evidence of consultation? Was the rationale justified? Did they give me a range? Should I give them 6 out of 6, or should I drop their score down to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0? Here I would write in my comments as to why I think they should get that. This document will go along with your project. I obviously fill this part in to help when your IB marker gets it, they get to read my comments as well. So the solution overview, right? Did the record of tasks, detail and complete? Was it clear? The development, did they use a high number of techniques? Was it appropriate? Was it adequate and explained? Were all the sources identified? You know what, for that one, I'm gonna drop the mark down to just some and give them an 11, okay? This actually updates this mark here, so I don't have to do anything with that. Does it function well? Is this straightforward? And is my evaluation fully? Maybe I could have provided a little more client feedback. So I'm gonna give a 5 there, okay? The rest of this is just written stuff from the IB itself, specifics. If you wanna read even more about how this is graded by the IB, you can read it. But then that would get submitted along with everything else, my final mark for it, and all the comments that I'd write in there for each of these sections. I'm gonna go and actually put in my comments for each of these, why I gave that particular mark, and then that will get sent along with that to the IB itself. Okay, that is now completed. And I'm gonna end this video in a second, but I also wanna show you that everything, not only the videos themselves, but on this website, all the videos are now in a playlist. So you can go through all 10 of these videos in a playlist. You can actually also access the folder, the exact same folder I was just working on with all those documents and all of that stuff in there is available for you to look at if you want to go in and look at the folder, and the original files are there. It's all on my website, right? All 11 videos. I said 10, but it's 11. And that concludes my version of this internal assessment. I hope it's been helpful. If you have any suggestions for how I could improve this, feel free to email me, and have a great day.